If you've ever seen a Korean drama like Sky Castle, you probably already know how obsessed Korean parents are with their education and how much money they're willing to spend for it. If you haven't seen it, Sky Castle is a drama set in a super fancy neighborhood where Korea's top 0.1% live. It follows parents who are in this insane race to get their kids into top universities with no matter what it takes. The show pokes fun at Korea's education system and how obsessed some parents are with their kids' success. A lot of people really related to it, mostly because, well, it's not that different from what actually happens in real life. In Korea's education system, the three most important subjects are Korean, math, and English. And out of those, English and math are the ones that people spend the most money on. There's a widespread belief that if you don't start training your kids early, they'll fall behind and it will be nearly impossible to catch up. And when it comes to English, the obsession is another level. At the point when Korean children first encounter serious private education and when the class divide begins is around age 4. Parents have two options: regular kindergarten and an English kindergarten. In these English kindergartens, native-speaking teachers conduct all classes in English. Some kids are exposed to English even before they properly learn Korean. Now, these English kindergartens cost about 3 times more than regular ones, and they're incredibly hard to get into. There are entrance tests, fierce competition, and if a family has even a bit of financial wiggle room, they will push hard to send their kids there. Even some ambitious parents who can't afford it sometimes go to extreme lengths to make it happen. This whole phenomenon reaches its peak with what's known as the Age 7 exam, where children take entrance tests for elite English academies. Check this out. This clip is from a documentary that caused a massive stir in Korea. You've got 7-year-olds lined up to take English exams, and some parents are literally pushing their crying kids into test rooms. To get into one of these prestigious academies, kids have to go through multiple exams: reading comprehension based on the US 3rd grade textbook, grammar tests, short essays written in 15 minutes, and even English interviews for 7-year-old kids. Some families even hire private tutors just to prepare for these academies' entrance exams. It shocked a lot of people, even in Korea. And while this level of madness is a more recent trend, I can tell you from my personal experience that the obsession with education isn't new. Back when I was in school in the 2010, it was just as intense. I went to a private high school, and one of my classmates had a private English tutor that cost $1,200 a month. Another spent entire school holidays living in boarding academies, spending $2,000 to $2,500 per month just to study English. Now, with all this effort, all this money, all this intensity, you'd expect Koreans to be amazing at English. But here's where it gets weird. If you've ever walked the street of Seoul and asked for directions in English or tried to befriend a Korean person, you might have noticed that a lot of Koreans, especially in their 30s to 50s, are surprisingly bad at speaking English. When someone speaks English fluently, people immediately ask, "How long did you live overseas?" Why are Koreans so bad at speaking English, even though they invest so much to learn it? Some say it's because English and Korean are just too different. The alphabets are different, grammar is totally different. Word order is reversed, which makes translation super confusing. When watching an English movie with the Korean subtitles, the sentence structure can get all messed up. You might see object come first before the verb, which is totally confusing. And the pronunciation, the Korean alphabet P can sound like both F and P, and dir can be R or L. But I don't agree that it's the right reason. For example, in India, Hindi and English are completely different too. Different alphabets, different grammar, but millions of Indians speak English fluently. It's not just about linguistic differences. Also, Koreans are excellent at reading English. Give them a university-level academic paper or high-level news articles. They'll read it fluently and understand everything. Koreans crush it on reading-based tests like TOEIC. Also, in exams like TOEFL, which include speaking and writing, Koreans tend to perform well only in reading and listening sections. That's the proof that it's not just about the language itself. Others argue that it's a cultural reason, that Koreans are too shy, afraid to make mistakes, or that they are too perfectionists. Again, I'm not that convinced. I've been to plenty of English conversation classes in Korea. And let me tell you, Korean extroverts are loud. They crack jokes, they never stop chatting. They're not afraid to speak, even with bad grammar or limited vocabulary. So, what's the real reason? Before we dive into the topic, if you're enjoying my video, please don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much. I believe that the answer lies in Korea's education system. Let's take a quick look at its history. Let's rewind. Back in the late 1800s, British missionaries came to Korea and taught English. Through many records from the time, we can see that Korean students picked up English very quickly. But then Japan colonized Korea and Japanese-style English education took over. That was the beginning of the problem. Japanese English education was heavily focused on grammar and reading. That's the model Korea inherited. So, instead of learning how to speak English, students were drilled on how to analyze it, memorizing vocabulary, dissecting grammar, translating sentences word by word. After Korea's liberation, English became a crucial tool for global communication. It was added to national curriculum with Korean and math. English was now one of the most important subjects for university entrance exams, the most important moment in a Korean student's life. But here's the thing. In Korea, everything comes down to your exam results. Your test scores determine which university you get into, and that in turn determines your career and even your social class. And in that context, one thing becomes absolutely vital: fairness. Now imagine trying to grade students on speaking. It's subjective. One teacher might give a high score, another might not. That leads to bias and power. Suddenly, the teachers who assess speaking hold enormous influence. That leads to corruption, bribery, and an unfair playing field. Because Korea is geographically far from English-speaking countries, it's difficult to find foreign teachers who could teach English. Nothing like today. As a result, speaking practice essentially became a privilege that only wealthy families who could afford expensive private tutoring has access to. And that goes completely against the core philosophy of the Korean education system, which is supposed to provide equal opportunity for success to everyone through learning. And there's another issue: logistics. In the baby boomer era, or 1960s to 70s, classrooms had 60 or more students with just one teacher. It's physically impossible to evaluate each student's speaking ability fairly and efficiently. On the other hand, reading and grammar are much easier to test. You can simply present a full paragraph and ask about the author's intention or the meaning of the content using multiple choice questions. It will make the evaluation straightforward and objective. And that's why Korea's National University entrance exam, called Suneung, has 45 English questions. 17 are listening and the rest 28 are reading comprehension. To ensure there's enough difference between top and average students, some questions are designed to be ridiculously difficult. Even American university professors have criticized them as being completely unreasonable for 19-year-olds. And that led to this bizarre situation. If you could read fast and understand complex texts, you could ace the exam without speaking a word of English. So the parents started pouring huge amount of money into private academies only to boost one skill: advanced reading and analysis. The focus shifted completely away from communication. In the end, English stopped being treated as a language and instead became a test subject, something to be conquered on paper, not spoken in conversation. Finally, Koreans developed this distorted English ability, super strong at reading but weak at speaking. It's a tragic kind of comedy. This deep desire to succeed actually turned Koreans into mute geniuses on the global stage. But things are changing. Parents are now pushing their kids into speaking-focused education from a young age, precisely because they don't want them to repeat the same mistakes. So, that's why Koreans are bad at speaking English, even after all the studying and all the money they spend. Once again, if you enjoyed my video, please don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. Also, if you have any questions or different ideas, please leave comments below. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.